Hello and welcome back. My cats are busy menacing in the background. Oh, Max, your eyes look scary like that. I hope that where you are, it is not as hot as where I am. We're in the middle of a heat wave, and tomorrow the heat index is going to be 105. So that's lovely. Anyways, I'm back to read more of No One Is Talking About This, inching closer towards the end, and I'll pick up where I left off after that round rainbow. Now Trudy's in the background. You gonna stick around, guys? All right. Her sister painstakingly composing a letter to her senator, striking out all the phrases that looked like red meat. She wrote, always tried to be a good citizen, ate healthy food and exercised. Doctors assured us that nothing we did could have caused this. No idea when I can return to work. Our insurance could drop at any moment due to the astronomical cost. She is the light of our lives. Asking finally, do you think it's too political? Was the baby American? If she was it because this was the dust that had raised her particles? Was it because she was impossibly ambitious in the land of impossible ambition? Or was it because this was the country that had so steadfastly refused to care for her? The letter to the senator, begging for help, a night nurse, a day nurse, a do-over, full reproductive rights for all women, an overhaul of the entire healthcare system, a new timeline, anything, everything, everything. The letter to the senator was never mailed. How could it be when their whole clock was full of the child? I can do something for her, she tried to explain to her husband when he asked why she kept flying back to Ohio on those rickety $98 flights that had recently been exposed as dangerous by Nightline. A minute means something to her, more than it means to us. We don't know how long she has. I can give them to her. I can give her my minutes. Then, almost angrily, what was I doing with them before? And something about the rawness of life with the baby was like the rawness of travel, the way it laid you open to the clear blue nerves. You were the five senses pouring down an unknown street. You were the slap of your shoes and hot paper of your palms, streaming past statues of regional Madonnas. The indelibility of a certain thrift shop in Helsinki, the smell of foreign decades in the lining of one leather coat, the loop of desert island disc in a certain coffee shop in Cleveland where the owner warned her not to have a second detoxifying charcoal latte because it would flush the pills out of her system and get her pregnant. The bridges of other cities where she would watch their drab green rivers buoy up their rainbow-necked ducks, where she would drink espresso until there was a free and frightening exchange between her and the day. She was open, flung open, anything could rush in. She returned to her sister's house for the holidays. She wrestled the 18-pound turkey into the oven and then ran back to the couch to check the monitors. She basted it with bubbled cupfuls of white wine and then ran back to the couch to exchange the turkey's weight for the baby. She arranged sprigs of thyme and slices of pear and champagne flutes for something called an autumn cocktail. She would create a holiday atmosphere or die trying. Finally, as the sun was setting, they all sat down to eat with the baby beside them, and they looked at the flowers in the center of the table, and they looked at her green grass and marigold numbers, heart rate, oxygen, and they thought of something called abundance. Ben Franklin turkey myth. He didn't champion turkey as nation's symbol. He used turkeys in electricity experiments. The ideal thing to watch as you held the baby having an hour-long seizure was the Hallmark Channel, which had just begun to roll out its holiday programming. The plot of a Hallmark movie, invariable, was City Bitch learns to kiss a truck on Christmas. The city bitches were exactly 37 years old. Their eyes were wide with Christ Coke. And at the end, they were so happy to be finally taught their lesson, happy to stay in the hometowns forever with family. Touch me, the baby demanded at all times. Touch me, I am in the dark. There was a robot in her sister's house that listened to them 24/7, filing their conversations away carefully in case they all murdered each other at some point. Those headlong months of words would be locked in a vault for eternity, sobbing on and on. What will we do? What are we to do? Underpinned everywhere with the baby's breathing and the blips of her machines, occasionally brightened by her sister throwing out little interrogations of the quotidian like, Alexa, how tall is Kevin Hart? Alexa, play classical music. This time last year, they had been at the Nutcracker, and in bed that night, she closed her eyes, and the ballet was still dancing itself. The ballerina was caught again and again by safe, rough hands. The score filled the air like a pillow fight, But above it was the sound of toe boxes on the boards, that ugly human thump that refined the spectacle to a beauty past all bearing, so that the man in the front of her broke down entirely and shouted out, "Brava!" Perhaps this is the afterlife, she thought. The eyes close, but the ballet keeps dancing. The bodies that are the ballet still spin as great snowy trees are lowered from the ceiling to the earth. On Christmas Eve, she took a sharp right turn and drove past the farmhouse where her great grandmother had kept her son chained to a stake in the front yard. The shutters were a flat funeral black, like widow's weeds. The window was a merciless glass rectangle. She saw her history there as she passed, saw the circle of dead and pounded grass that was the radius of his freedom, and where he sat for hours doing the only thing he could do, see what he could see. Movement was now completely impossible. They could no longer even take the baby in the car. Her system's freedom had been snapped from her, neat and complete. She did not sleep or shower. Her heartbeat was the beep of the monitors. She was tied to the baby, who nevertheless had turned out to be the leafiest shade on earth, towering high above her and almost to the heavens, stirring with little birds. To watch her sister was not like watching a saint. It was like watching the clear flowing stream the saint was filled with, water that talked, laughed, carried, lifted, and never once uttered an impatient sound. How? She asked her sister once, and her sister stared at her like water and said, "Perfect happiness." God, we sounded like cult members, she thought. Of course they sounded like cult members. When astrology and crystals and Jesus hair on dudes came back, when the apocalypse began bringing with it unbelievable sunsets, when synths appeared on the soundtracks, like new kinds of hearts that might make it, when the flame leaped higher in human faces as if a gust had just come through the door, then it was time for cults as well. Have you heard? Her husband cried on the phone, rattling a newspaper in the background. Have you heard that they can now shoot a word into someone's head using a microwave ray? What word? Any word. How long does the word last? We don't know yet, he told her, dropping his voice to the nightmare range. Could be forever. Maybe that's what happened, she thought. Maybe someone had shot the child's name into her, into some deep bullseye at the center of her body. Maybe she would never even be able to think of anything else again. Or not the name, even, just love, love, love. As the baby struggled to breathe, as it became clear that her airway was collapsing, as her head grew too heavy to even turn from side to side, it slowly dawned on them that she was experiencing an enlightenment, a golden age. She grasped beads and rattles. She answered with sweet, gurgling near giggles when you talked to her. When they played the game called Little Touch, her eyes traveled to all the places they kissed her one by one. Against all wisdom and in the face of her bleak, gray pictures, she was learning. She could learn. I know when she's about to have a fit because she'll look up at something that no one else can see, a woman wrote of her daughter's epilepsy in the portal. The other thing that will happen before her episodes, but also during and after, are her premonitions. She'll tell us something that will come true, or she'll know something that she has no way of knowing. The girl had an IQ of 48, watched no television, didn't use the computer, and according to her mother, could not lie. Epilepsy is a strange thing, and I wouldn't wish it upon another person ever. But it's made us realize that there's something special that lies in the brain. We aren't religious, but it's made us believe in something unexplainable. In a way, we're grateful that some of the friends we've lost, people who couldn't cope being around it, because it's meant we've been able to have uninterrupted time with her to observe things like this. On the one hand, people who could not be around it. On the other hand, things like this. On New Year's Eve, she leaned over the baby with a glass of champagne and sang Bally High right next to her ear, and the baby's eyes flew wide, and she went to the island. She sang Do Re Mi, and the baby followed up and down the stairs. She sang Over the Rainbow, and the rainbow went round. She sang If I Were a Bell, and that really did it. The baby pedaled her legs with excitement. She gripped her fingers with both hands. She cooed and she cooed on the same pitch. She pushed her oxygen mask away and then clutched it to her face. If I were a bell, I'd go ding dong, ding. All right, I'll end there today. I think the next reading will be the very last one. I think the writing gets really beautiful in this section. All the colors and textures and sort of synesthetic metaphors are really lovely. But it's interesting, right, that it continues to be about the internet, even as we're in the realm of real life. And maybe I'll talk about that more once I finish. But until then, I hope you are doing well and keeping cool wherever you are and staying healthy. And thanks for tuning in.